The year is 2019, and Battle Royales have basically become the only genre of game. From Call of Duty to Counter-Strike, Titanfall to Tetris, it seems mass multiplayer last-person standing combat is a genre that's not going anywhere anytime soon. A game type this massive, as with zombie games, survival games, and zombie survival games, is bound to be bountiful for any developer who can claim their stake. So in a world where thousands of games from thousands of studios are released every year to wildly varying reception, how does a game come out on top? Well, this can be accomplished in a few ways, for instance by using an IP or foundation that players are already familiar with to ease them into the game, offering something the competition doesn't, or by simply getting ahead of the curve. Games tend to take years to make after all, so getting your take on a genre out as soon as possible when a wave of popularity is coming in practically guarantees you, if nothing else, attention. Being seen as the first to do something, regardless of how oversaturated the market becomes, will earn you respect and dedication from people looking to try a product that market has produced. After all, if you've been around the longest, surely you've had the most time to perfect the medium. So what was the first Battle Royale? Well, it's generally accepted that the first take on the genre was Minecraft Hunger Games. But seeing as that was a fan mod for Minecraft that required tedious setup and multiple server plugins, not to mention is very much dead nowadays, we can set it aside, while acknowledging that it more or less got there first, just not in an easily accessible way. Other games and mods such as B2 Online and of course DayZ popped up here and there to influence developers and consumers alike, pushing us ever closer to the genre. However, no game quite ticked all of the boxes of what we understand to be the modern Battle Royale. These principal factors being a large group of players dropping into a massive map with nothing but the clothes on their backs, looting for weaponry, armor, healing items, and the like, then killing anything that moves. Over time, some sort of deadly force, usually a storm, closes in on the map, increasing the frequency of player versus player combat as hiding places are systematically eliminated. Eventually, all but one player will fall, be it to bullets or bastion, and that player is dubbed the victor. All these ingredients stew together to form the delectable dish known as the Battle Royale. And while it's not technically the first of its kind, I think we can all agree the first game to establish this framework so cleanly to truly define what we've accepted as a definitive Battle Royale was PLAYERUNKNOWN'S BATTLEGROUNDS. Published by a subsidiary of Bluehole, PUBG released as an early access title on Steam in early 2017. Development was headed by Brendan Green, aka PlayerUnknown. Green didn't consider himself much of a gamer, only playing the occasional army-style game here and there, until he found a deep love for DayZ, which for those of you who aren't aware was a zombie survival mod for Arma 2. Having run a DayZ server for a year and even modding the mod itself to some extent, Green wanted to create an Arma mod of his own. Being inspired by the 2000s movie Battle Royale, which I've never seen before, but based on the description I'm guessing is just live-action Danganronpa, Green set out to create Battle Royale mods for Arma 2 and eventually 3. At this point, Green was contacted by the developers of a game called H1Z1 to act as a consultant for their Battle Royale mode. This video isn't exactly a documentary about the development of these games, rather the impact of the genre itself, so we'll glaze over the finer details. Just know that H1Z1, otherwise known as King of the Kill, Just Survive, and Z1 Battle Royale, was a bit of a developmental disaster, as you can no doubt tell by the 4 different names. While it did have a notable impact on the Battle Royale genre, it was more of a nudge than the push on the ball that Green would get rolling, as after tweaking and refining the idea of the Battle Royale through mods and consulting, Green was approached by Bluehole to create a full, proper game in the genre. Not a mod of an existing game, not an alternate game mode, a full, proper Battle Royale game from the ground up. PlayerUnknown'S Battlegrounds. And this is where the massive craze for the game mode began. And it's clear to see why. After all, PUBG is fantastic. It has guns, and there's cars, and I think there's a frying pan? I heard something about energy drinks and lawsuits, I think. So I've never played PUBG. Yeah, despite being a huge fan of the Battle Royale genre, I've never gotten around to trying the game that really started it all. I've never even watched anyone play it. There's a few reasons for this. I was rather busy during the game's original popularity boom with this channel and moving across the country. I felt intimidated by my friends who owned this game's rabid devotion to it, and frankly, I just didn't feel like buying the game when money was so tight for me at the time. I mean, it still is. It also was then. It wasn't until free-to-play Battle Royale showed up that I really found my footing in the game type. and since then I've been playing them happily on and off for streams, videos, and just for fun. And yet the first domino in the line never really caught my attention. So why am I making a video on Battle Royales without ever having played Battlegrounds? Well, if you read the title of the video, you can probably guess why. I want to know if PUBG is just as good as its original popularity suggests it to be, or if the competition has altogether mutinied the game. Here's the scope. I'm going to play PUBG totally blind for the first time ever, and compare it to 3 of my favorite battle royales, which I've already clocked countless hours in. Fortnite, which has since dominated the market share, but not necessarily snuffed out its competition. Apex Legends, which brought a lot of new ideas to the genre and took players by storm. And this is a bit of a wild card, but Counter-Strike Global Offensive Danger Zone. Now, this may just be a game mode in CSGO, but as someone who's grown up playing Counter-Strike and loves its competitive edge, I want to use this video as a means to discuss what fascinates me so much about its relatively new Battle Royale mode. Hell, this video was originally going to be exclusively about Danger Zone, talking about what makes it stand out from other games of the genre. But there's simply no way I can compare Battle Royale games to one another without first getting to its roots. So, let's take a brief look at PLAYERUNKNOWN'S BATTLEGROUNDS. Right out the gate, the game starts on a less than ideal foot. My character model refused to load in for the required character creator and then continued to remain unloaded until I restarted the game. Not a great first impression, but if nothing else, I appreciate having a character creator at all, considering Fortnite has skins but not much customization beyond that, and CSGO has nothing of the sort. Apex, while it still has skins, gets a bit more of a pass as it is a class-based title, but regardless, points in PUBG's favor for offering this sort of customization in any respect. Either way, it's time to hop into a solo match to get a totally blind feel for the game without teammates screaming obscenities at me for my lack of knowledge. So let's get playing. Eventually. So, one of the first things I noticed about this game is that the load times are a bit lengthier than I'm accustomed to, or I suppose more accurately, the time to get a game started. I have the game installed on an SSD, so things aren't taking so long to load for me even at ultra settings. More so, the time until a match actually commences after connecting is consistently several minutes. And for the record, I get that 100 players with varying connection speeds and PC rigs are attempting to join all at once. I understand. The way I typically see this handled, though, in other battle royales, is a countdown timer until the match begins activates after, say, most of the people join, giving those with slower speeds time to prepare themselves. Then the timer gets dropped down to around 10 seconds or so as soon as everybody has had a chance to load. However, in PUBG, it appears the timer to begin a game doesn't activate until 100 players have connected, and then is always 1 minute long to ensure everybody has preloaded the map and all its assets. While understandable, it does create extensive downtime between games in a game mode typically associated with short, fast-paced matches, although we'll get to that. Well, everyone's here, the boys are dropping, and down we go. Parachute controls are a bit tricky, but do give a lot of aerodynamic control once you understand them, something that was made simpler, for better or worse, in other battle royales. At first, things proceed as normal for me. Find guns, armor, healing supplies. I frequently will find weapon modifications for guns I don't have before finding a suitable firearm, but funny enough, not nearly as often as I did in Apex Legends. Meanwhile, CS and Fortnite, for the most part, don't really have any mods of this sort. So aside from glitches and load times, nothing's out of the ordinary here. Same satisfying freedom and looting mechanics, same chance of getting unlucky with drops, but now that I've suited up, it's time to find some players to take on. So, where is everybody? No, I mean, really, where the fuck is everyone? Where the fuck are people? Oh, there's some, okay, I'm dead, all right, that's fair. They had a positional advantage. This time, let me try dropping in more of a hot zone. One of those large areas with names will do the trick. Oh, okay, this is more like it. You know, strategic gunfights, sneaking, taking care not to reveal my location with footsteps, camping under windows and abusing third-person mode to spot players who can't see me. You know, tactics. All right, now everyone is dead, and, well, there's no loot left, nothing to do here, but the storm isn't coming anytime soon, so I guess I'll just chill, wait for people to come to me, and, just, wait here for... Oh, it's been 20 minutes, okay. Maybe I should try heading out, no, I'm dead, okay. I think perhaps I'm just unlucky. Surely every single game of PUBG I play won't consist of waiting and wandering around for 20 minutes while nothing happens until the storm forces me into the scope of some sniper who was born, raised, and will die in a bush? Guys? I'm not having fun. It feels like the only correct way to play this game is to get guns and armor, then hide inside a room for the entire match until the storm forces you out while everybody else dies around you. Then play Vulture when the horde has been thinned out. Maybe I'm just impatient, but these games take so goddamn long with nothing interesting happening. The maps are so big and so boring. There's nothing to do, no side quests like in CSGO with its hostages and safes, no map events like Fortnite occasionally shoves in your face, no dynamic ships to loot like in Apex Legends. It's just a giant empty map. The most you have is occasional supply drops and the red zone that randomly bombs sections of the map for no apparent reason. Now, to be clear, PUBG offers 4 massive different maps to play on, more than any other battle royale I'm discussing. In theory, this adds a plethora of variety to each and every game. 4 maps are better than 1, right? CSGO at the moment has 2 different maps, but only one of them is playable at a time, though this is more than likely subject to change. Fortnite's map is changing all the time, with areas being removed faster than Epic can remove games from Steam. Apex Legends, on the other hand, currently has only one relatively modestly sized map in its arsenal. However, all 3 of these games have something that PUBG's maps simply don't offer. They're fucking interesting! They're shit to do! There's memorable locations, varying cover, aesthetically pleasing terrain. Each and every area is jam-packed with something to explore. Even the smallest and therefore most compact map in PUBG, while smaller than, say, Fortnite's island, still feels barren simply due to the space between areas of interest being large swaths of open, empty countryside. This isn't helped by the fact that, to me, every area in PUBG looks exactly the goddamn same. Generic buildings, generic concrete walls, generic deserts, generic forests, nothing eye-catching or memorable anywhere. In an attempt to capture a realistic aesthetic, Battlegrounds has foregone any aesthetic at all. Apex and particularly Fortnite both have defined art styles that will outlast their technical prowess. And CSGO, well, it looks like a Valve game. But PUBG is a game that already looks dated merely 2 years after its release. Because if a game attempts to look as close to real life as possible, maxing out the graphical power available to it at the time of its conception, it will inevitably appear outdated once technology improves. And getting back to my point, having massive maps full of barren wastelands freckled with repetitive, monotonous locations doesn't do anything to improve gameplay, merely extend it. Matches in PUBG proceed as such. Drop in a location. If you're near other players, such as in a hot zone, you'll struggle for guns, which by the way are empty and set to single fire mode by default, so you'll need to take a hot moment to prime them, fight, and eventually someone will come out on top. If you're in a less populated area, you'll get suited up without much conflict. Then you'll be spending around 20 minutes wandering through no man's land, or if you're already inside the safe zone away from the storm, 20 minutes hiding inside of a bathroom until players happen upon you. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, but this is how every single game goes for me. Finding a vehicle helps, but since sound travels realistically far in this fucking game, you're basically painting a target on yourself for using them, particularly as the circle draws closer in. Finally, if you're still alive as the storm has tightened the scope of the arena, this is when things get hectic, as around 20 players will likely be fighting over a very small playfield. However, the problem being how much of this final encounter can come down to luck. A player has been fighting tooth and nail to suit up and force their way past the storm to the safe zone that spawned on the other side of the map, will be gunned down by the person who found a good hiding spot early on and got lucky. Often this game boils down to being caught out in the open by someone at a vantage point, as you don't have a choice but to be outside when the storm approaches. Now, this is a problem in all battle royales, but every other game I've mentioned except PUBG offers some kind of counter. Fortnite, like it or not, has its building mechanic, creating forts out of thin air to act as impromptu cover against a sniper. Apex Legends has class abilities that will protect or shroud you for long enough to seek proper cover. And Counter-Strike's maps are designed with frequent cover in mind and items such as the riot shield to protect yourself. PUBG has a frying pan, so there's that. Opting for realism again hinders Battlegrounds gameplay by having wide open fields with no cover to shield yourself from players who happen to be lucky enough to already have positional advantage. Well, how about safety in numbers? In a squad game, my teammates and I can attack a primed player from multiple angles. I simply have to call out where I spotted players by, using the compass, which will be different for me than it is for them if we're not right next to one another. Communication in PUBG is a bit tricky when all of the buildings look exactly the same and there's no direct method of pinging locations. This is something that Apex Legends added to much praise and has since been introduced to CSGO and Fortnite alike. And according to those who have played PUBG for a while now, this game used to have a more intuitive ping system than simply markers on the minimap. But this was removed when professional players complained it was too easy and not necessary. To me, this seems absurd, but one argument I saw said that due to the game's slower movement in wide open areas, being able to ping the precise location of a player is far too overpowered, as if that player wants to relocate, they'll be easily gunned down by a squad training their sights on them. To which I would say, granting players a universal method of conveying information is a good thing, and if the argument is, but then they'll be able to tell their teammates where I am, shouldn't they be able to? The problem isn't the ping system, the problem is the slow movement speed and lack of cover. There's a difference between a realistic tactical shooter and a playable video game. Sure, okay, in real life you won't have random outcroppings of metal sheets and half walls to protect yourself from enemies. Sure, you won't be able to easily spot distant foes who are locked in on you, that's just how it is. But does that make for a fun battle royale game? Honestly, in my opinion, no. Waiting for extensive periods of time to have a roll of the dice on positioning, the storm, and potential cover simply doesn't do it for me. Particularly when in squad games, once I'm dead and have to wait on my squad mates to play the rest of the match for themselves as I twiddle my thumbs. This was always a problem with BRs, though most prominent in PUBG due to its slower pace. However, Apex Legends introduced an innovative respawn mechanic, which takes a bit of work on your teammates' end but will get you back in the fight and keep things interesting. Much like the ping system, CS and Fortnite adopted this new mechanic gracefully to keep up with the competition, and too much like the ping system, PUBG failed to partake altogether. It feels purposely naive to see what your free-to-play competitors are doing well and ignore it outright. Fortnite took the initiative and added mechanics from other BRs to improve upon itself, as well as fun new items like explosive bows, hoverboards, ball cars, wind turbine gusts, invisibility grenades, mounted turrets, fucking Thanos. What the fuck is this game anymore? Quick sidebar, is it just me or does Fortnite update far too often, contrasting PUBG's lack of desire to change in the worst possible way? It feels like I could stop playing Fortnite for a month, come back, and any knowledge I had of the game prior simply has gone out the window. I don't have time to keep up with this game's absurd new nonsense every single day. It feels overwhelming to say the least. Of course, compared to Apex Legends, anything is better. While its launch shocked the BR scene with exciting new mechanics, classes, and gameplay concepts, Apex has taken its sweet bloody time even fixing bugs, let alone adding content. CSGO Danger Zone was no better for a while, but recently got a modest burst of new and exciting features which keep trickling in. So maybe Valve, if you can believe it, found a balance? Regardless, PUBG feels very much like it's stuck in the past, like it's coasting on its former popularity while only acknowledging its competition far enough to attempt to sue it. This is a bold and confusing stance from a game that famously has intense performance problems and, in my experience, frequent crashes. Sure, Apex Legends likes to crash. Sure, I've seen plenty of people complain about Fortnite and Counter-Strike crashing, and those games shouldn't have those problems either, I completely agree. But in their defense, those games are free. Battlegrounds costs $30. The free-to-play BRs make their money through cosmetic microtransactions like CSGO's weapon skins or so-called battle passes, which are one-time purchases that will progressively unlock cosmetics as you play the game and complete challenges. Fair enough, while many are annoyed by this sort of nonsense, your game has to make money somehow. It's not like you'd see a battle pass in a paid battle royale, that would just be greedy. Oh, alright, so if I'm understanding this correctly, I level up with experience, which unlocks loot boxes, which contain coupons, which I can trade for better coupons, which I can then buy cosmetic items with. Or I could buy keys instead to open other loot boxes. And unrelated to all of this is a separate battle points currency to buy separate loot boxes and cosmetics. I feel like I'm watching a speedrun of capitalism. I understand that this entire system exists as a way to fund new content and keep servers running, but at the end of the day, it's still a paid game. It feels so brazen, so egregious to have a paid battle pass in a paid game. If I already had to purchase the game, I'd rather further microtransactions just out and give me the cosmetics I desire, rather than having to pay for the game, then pay for the luxury of the ability to unlock loot boxes, to unlock premium currency, to unlock t-shirts. Alright, I've been pretty harsh on PUBG thus far, but it's not like my experience was thoroughly terrible. I did have some positive moments. Shooting the shit over this game with friends was a good time, even if the shit being shot was often my skull. The intense anxiety followed by sweet relief of finding a player, gaining positional advantage on them, and then taking them down was exemplary, though not enough to justify the 20 minutes it often takes to get there, in my opinion. I love having separate third and first person game modes. Personally, I got more enjoyment from first person. No more hiding on the other side of a window and using third person to spy on players who can't functionally spot you. If you want information, you have to risk your neck for it. If you want to be a realistic tactical shooter game thingy, then go all the way with it. And finding and driving vehicles is a welcome change of pace to the slow as molasses movement speed. Every positive I find is a negative, doesn't it? I guess at the end of the day, it comes down to different wants and desires. PUBG wants to be a realistic shooter in a game type that, frankly, doesn't support it. I can get the gritty looks and realistic guns and whatnot by playing Counter-Strike, but obviously the gunplay and movement in that game is not for everyone. But I would happily take Apex Legends as my BR of choice any day of the week, as its understanding of map design, fast-paced combat, and a well-thought-out respawn system put it head and shoulders over PUBG in the fun department. And if I had the time to check back each and every day, I could probably get back into Fortnite too. I'm sure the millions of kids addicted to that game are loving the stream of constant new toys to play with. PUBG, however, as I've said, feels trapped in the past, not wanting to sacrifice its realism and competitive edge with new mechanics, yet still taking the chance to capitalize on children who don't know any better. I honestly understand what people love about this game so much. It ticks a lot of boxes for me too. When I was younger, I watched hundreds of hours of people playing DayZ because I liked the idea of a realistic shooter. It was just neat to me. The slow march and buildup of equipment leading to a climactic showdown, and battle royales themselves are so fun to me as someone who doesn't have a lot of free time. I can get several exciting matches in under an hour and then be done with it. Meanwhile, PUBG feels like an investment, financially, gameplay, and time-wise. One that, with plenty of what I consider better alternatives freely available, I'm not willing to take. Maybe I'm just impatient. Maybe I just missed the boat. Maybe I would have thought differently 2 years ago. But that brings me to my point. Battlegrounds feels trapped in time, clinging onto the realism of Arma, the foundation it was built on, while presenting itself with the inherently ridiculous nature of a battle royale. PlayerUnknown himself has even said he's done with the genre of game and wants to move on to other projects. And I genuinely wish him the best. Just because I don't like a product doesn't mean other people shouldn't, or that I would wish any ill will towards its developers. But Battlegrounds as a product, I can't stand playing anymore. And if less harshly than I, the average player base of the game seems to agree. If PUBG was willing to establish itself better, give itself more of a personality, perhaps it could have a better foothold in 2019. Or if nothing else, at least captured my attention better. CSGO maintains some form of the realism PUBG desires while introducing perks like moon boots upon dropping into the map for the first time, and the money system to purchase weapons with delivery drones. Hey, to be fair, if any company was going to sponsor a battle royale, it'd probably be Amazon. The smaller scale of the maps is made moot by their more interesting terrain full of dynamic events to partake in. Topped off with fewer overall players crowding the area, and Danger Zone creates a more refined battle royale experience. If you're looking for something, well, tactical, but still just a bit goofy, as battle royales ought to be. Meanwhile, Apex establishes its own universe with the idea of a massive battle royale seems logical. All the characters are full of life and have delightful voice acting, and are excited to be participating in the game itself. While all of this may be a hard sell to new consumers, they got around that by having a surprise release on the day of its announcement, tying it into the already beloved Titanfall franchise, and of course, making it free to play. Combined with innovations in the BR scene, even if its popularity has since declined due to a slow rollout of updates, Apex Legends won't soon be forgotten. And Fortnite makes Makes a lot of money. If you were to ask someone who didn't play video games about battle royales, they'd probably mention Fortnite. Its aggressive marketing, clear and defined art style, and constant desire to stay fresh, if a bit too fresh, keeps it at the forefront of the market, brazenly bringing itself to every system with a screen it can run on and forcing cross-compatibility with famously unopened companies like Sony. Epic Games has pumped everything into making Fortnite the beast it is today. Like it or hate it, it's impossible to look at Fortnite without acknowledging its accomplishments. Battle royales aren't going anywhere anytime soon. Collective millions of people, both young and old, spend their time and money endlessly on games of the genre. Some have invested large parts of their lives into PUBG or Fortnite, be it for profit or just plain fun. And PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds' impact on the genre, and therefore impact on the world of gaming, remains clear to those who are around for it. And even during the course of producing this video, the developers are taking steps in the test servers to improve upon UI and minor gameplay gripes I personally have. And this is excellent, but these feel more like compromises than improvements. PUBG's refusal to incorporate modern innovations, yet desire to make every last dollar it can through loot boxes, battle passes, and microtransactions despite being a $30 game, on top of its painfully slow pacing, boring aesthetic, and overall uninteresting gameplay, makes itself feel more like a relic of the past than a pillar of the future. Hey, so sorry this video took so long to come out, but, you know, it took a lot of time to get footage of all of these Battle Royale games together, and I wanted to make sure I didn't get anything wrong. If I did, feel free to leave a comment below. You could also, if you want to talk to me more, follow me on Twitter, where I do art and I post stream announcements. There should be a link down there, I hope. Either way, thanks for watching, have a good day, and take it easy.